Welcome back. I'm ahead of schedule. Oh, no, I'm not. That clock's off. I always forget there's a couple of minute delay. 9:21. Welcome back, Daily Show. Hitting you on a Monday in with our friends at OSF Healthcare, RiverBender.com. I'm always excited to learn about the upcoming events at the hospital, and really there's so many good ones for all ages. And coming up on March the 11th, Sarah, another great opportunity for everyone to come together. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
First off, how are you doing today? How's your daylight savings time? I mean, this is just, I'm ready for it to end, you know?
Monday after daylight savings is always a little rough.
Well, and as we get into this, just to get you refamiliarized with our audience, take us through your role at OSF.
I'm a psychotherapist at OSF. I'm the lead psychotherapist on the floor. I work with 6 and up, but I do most of my work is between 12 and 25, 30, 35, something like that. So
fantastic. Well, and as we go into the event, this Lunch and Learn really is going to be designed for parenting teens today, and what a interesting conversation for so many, I'm sure, right now with all the distractions and the things life throws at us.
Oh yeah.
How was this developed?
Well, I'm a mom of 5.
Oh, there you go.
And something that I've realized throughout the years is that my older set of kids, which are in their early 30s and down to their mid-20s, raising them was significantly different than raising my now almost 15 and almost 17-year-old.
Oh, I bet.
And so I know I had, even in the role that I'm in, had to kind of relearn how to parent in a lot of ways, and keeping connection with the kids has just changed so much.
Well, and honestly, what a fascinating role for you to be in, too, because not a lot of people get to experience, that difference. They might say, well, man, I'm so glad we don't have to, raise our kids now compared to, 20 years ago or 30. But take me through, what is it like, to go through that transition? Because I'm sure it's almost, I hate to put words in your mouth, but like a shell shock, because
it kind of is.
You're used to one way and then boom,
The things you see that are a lot different is how much kids are engaged in their phones. When my older set was growing up, I could be like, no computer for you, and then I would just remove them from the computer. But now they all have little computers at their fingertips, and they don't watch TV. You can't say no TV for you tonight, because nobody watches TV. They watch YouTube, and they stay on FaceTime, and it's just a different world. And because they're so much more isolated than in the living room and outside, it is hard to kind of figure out how to approach them. Well,
and honestly, even for, someone like me that has a younger daughter out there, we're well away, by the time she's a teenager, I'm going to be at, AARP age, almost, or feel like it at least. I already feel like a Honda Civic. But, for most families, I feel like that's the same, where they feel like, we're still a couple of years away, or we still have time. Take me through, ways that maybe or some skills we can develop, as we kind of navigate our children growing too.
Well, something that's really important, I think, to carry through the teenage years that starts now, a couple of things really, emotional regulation, helping them realize what their emotions are and giving them the space that they need to be able to come back to center a little bit, and for yourself too, because kids take us to our brink. And then really developing those relationships that we have with our kids where they feel safe to come to us and talk about the hard things, because that only gets harder as they get older. That does not get easier.
Well, and is that going to be something that we discuss at the Lunch and Learn? I'm
sure. It's one of the main things, really, because everything that we do that amounts to skills really is through that communication channel.
Well, and when it comes to, this day and age, because there's always, it seemed like back when I was growing up, it was, finding a sport to go do, or, some activity outside. Take me through how important in your mind it is to have those, different options, for especially going back into the teenage side of things. If you have a preteen or a teenager, having the extracurriculars, if you will, or how do you set those up? How do you find those safe avenues if, you haven't seen an interest developed, specifically at that time yet?
Just encourage kids to explore and see what's out there. At our house for a while, it didn't always work very well, but we really tried to explore, like, how about we have it is a requirement in our house that we have an athletic activity, something that is sports.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool.
But we also tried to encourage something that was of the arts or music or something also. And if they didn't like it, then we moved on to something else, but we finished our commitment to whatever we were doing in the moment.
And see, that's what I wanted to go into, because I think sometimes too, the bite off more than you can chew happens, and not necessarily maybe for the children at some points, but maybe the parents, because you have, like you said, 5 kids, or you have 2 or 3 that are the same age, and both of them have 2 or 3 different extracurriculars. Is it one of those things where you've seen that sometimes those extra activities do more, I don't want to say harm than good, but can add more stressors than the benefits? And is it important to find out what the priorities are in those activities to pick the best, or to pick what's better? For
sure. I mean, something that's always important with kids and parents and family units is budget, right? And that includes time and money. And the activities that we choose to do aren't just physical constraints of time. For parents, it's the mental gymnastics that we do, trying to figure out how we're going to get to this and that, and how we're going to pay for $1,000 baseball travel team versus, this choral concert that's, a couple of states away. And so it's real conversations to be had, and figure out what our budgets are and what we can do and what we can't, and what's important and what can maybe wait.
Well, and going, just kind of following up onto that too, if there is, those stresses that come with it, like you said, that's a perfect example of, travel baseball, any sport, and then you add on choir or any type of activity there. Is there anything that, parents can do, or, a parent, just depending on their situation? It really doesn't have to be dependent on a co-parenting thing, but if we're by ourselves, is there any stress management that you recommend for, taking some time, decompressing and really just kind of evaluating, instead of just getting caught up in all the craziness of that cloud that it can bring?
Yeah. I mean, we always have to have our coping skills that we can go back to that allows us to clear our mind. For me, I really like to be outside in the woods or by water is preferable. And that always brings me back to center. And encouraging the kids to do the same. And it comes down to like a real conversation within the family of, hey, kiddos, I know that this is what you want to do and you want to do this, but there's one of me, or there's 2 of me, or there's this much budget. Can we work together and try to find out a way that we can make this manageable? Like, maybe can you do volleyball in the spring and track in the fall? Does that meet your needs? Just coming together as a family, letting them express their needs and validating what's important to them, and then expressing your own needs and what your concerns are, and then navigating it.
Going into that too, how important is it to get through the static of maybe the I guess the proverbial moody teenager, if you will, where it's not where you could give them everything they wanted that day. It could be 70 degrees, but it needed to be 75. You know what I'm saying? And how do you navigate that? Because I feel like sometimes, you see parents get caught up in playing down to the mindset of what's going on, mentally with, puberty, or you name it, and it kind of causes a lot of friction that way. Do you have any suggestions there?
Man, teenagers have some big emotions. Yeah. Whew. And they kind of vary from moment to moment. Yeah. But that is the one good thing that we can count on, is that right now they may be just totally off the chain and doing something kind of wild and crazy. But if we give them a little bit of space and just validate their feelings, like, man, I can imagine how tough that would be.
Yeah.
And give them some space to just process that and move on. Probably they'll come back to you and be like, hey, Mom, what's up? They'll move through that, and they just need you to see them for what it is and to really hear them.
And, to me, it seems like a lot of times if the space is just given and not, saying, all right, go take a, 18-mile walk and come home. But, whatever space is decided upon,
right.
It seems like that, to me, would stop a lot of these problems from really getting to grander levels, because emotions run high, and then it kind of sucks everybody into that power vacuum, if you will.
A lot of times just listening, understanding where that might be coming from, even if we know as an adult that this does not matter right now and that this is not going to be, to them, this is everything. Yeah. And if we can just be in there with them and then give them a little bit of space. A lot of times I'll look at patients and my kids alike and just be like, so are you just kind of mad about that? Are you looking for some kind of support? What do you need from me? And a lot of times they'll say, nothing, I just wanted to tell you about it and be mad about it. And I'll say, okay. And then maybe they'll come back to me the next session, or maybe my kids will come back to me later that night and be like, can I get a hug, Mom? Thank you.
Yeah.
They just need a little bit of space and time. And it's not us. They're not mad at us or frustrated with us necessarily. Maybe it's the lack of control. Maybe it's a really intense problem that they don't know what to do with. Just let them have their thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, I feel like, does that help when it comes to, maybe breaking the wall down to being more open with, our parents and communication? Because I know that could be a struggle for some families too. Just
that by itself builds the connection, because what happens is they go, oh, Mom didn't ask me 2 million questions about what just happened. She just sat and listened.
Yeah.
Or Dad didn't try to solve this problem and overstep me. He just listened to me. Mm-hmm. And what happens is they go, I think I'm going to give this a try again. This is a little more important problem, and I think I'm going to take it to Mom and Dad and see what they do, because they did pretty good last time. And pretty soon we have this connection with the kids where they're bringing a lot more things to our attention instead of being sneaky or hiding or talking about it with their friends instead, or Aunt Joan or whoever. They're coming to us.
Well, and, it just seems like whenever you have that type of a dynamic, everything around that seems more healthy, whether it's the marital relationship,
sure.
Or relationships between our, parents and, the in-laws, you name it. It just seems like once the true core is figured out in our own house and between the relationship with everyone, it really goes so much more further than just our house.
And not only are we figuring out that relationship and building that connection, but amongst all of this, we really are teaching them how to regulate their emotions, how to process through something a little more logically, being able to come back to center and have some foresight about things and creating insight within themselves about what's important and what isn't.
Well, and to me, I feel like it helps ourselves too, kind of practice some of the things that we might have forgotten a little bit along
the and if we can do that in our really safe places, then we can go into the world where it's not so safe and try those same kinds of skills. And then we're moving through life not unbothered or unscathed, but at least with the know-how and courage to know that we'll get through it.
Well, and one thing that kind of kind of puts a picture in my head is when the siblings kind of start to have rifts too. And I'm not this. It just seems like you always have like the side. Well, why do you always pick such and little Susie's side, or why don't you ever take my side? If you ever get caught in a rut where you see the siblings, or you got the teenagers butting heads, or maybe one's a teenager, one's younger, vice versa, and you start to see this constant pattern, what's the best way to kind of break that up, or maybe let the venting happen, but in a way that doesn't just lead to more venting the next day,
Well, siblings are siblings. They're always going to find a way to be mad at each other because they're sharing all the resources in the house. They're sharing the time resources and the money resources. So they're going to be just who they are. However, parents can be good moderators. You can, try to create that space for them, or take one and, hey, let's go for a walk and talk this out. Like, you need some space. Let's reset a minute here and just see if you can kind of talk to one and then go to the other one and give them some of the same time. And then maybe they can come together and you can be some kind of mediator, or maybe it doesn't even need to come to that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Let's do this. We'll take a quick pause here. We'll come back, chat it up some more. It's 9:33, a little bit of change. Or Daily Show next. Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Firearms training shouldn't feel intimidating. At Precision Point Armory in Bethalto, we focus on safety, confidence, and real-world skills. Whether you're new or renewing your concealed carry, you'll get professional instruction without pressure. Learn safe handling, sound decision-making, and proper techniques tailored to your experience level. If you're looking for premium firearms training in the heart of Bethalto, Illinois, call 618-779-9947 or go to precisionpointarmory.net and train with confidence today.
Struggling with depression that just won't go away? At Precision TMS, we offer a non-invasive, drug-free treatment designed to target the areas of the brain linked to mood regulation. Using FDA-cleared transcranial magnetic stimulation, gentle magnetic pulses help reactivate underperforming brain circuits without surgery or sedation. Many patients experience real relief, even after other treatments haven't worked. Our experienced team provides personalized care every step of the way. Contact Precision TMS today to see if TMS therapy is right for you.
Since 1993, Sparks Junk Removal is always adapting to the needs of our clients. That is why we now offer weekly trash pickup for selected areas. Plus, we offer driveway-safe rubber-tired dumpster rental. Give us a call today at 618-781-1407 or visit us at sparksjunkremoval.net.
I set the thermostat so my house would be warm when I got home from work, but the kitchen is still cool.
At Barrett Heating and Cooling, we stand behind every Linux system we sell.
My dealer said he'd take care of everything.
At Barrett Heating and Cooling, we understand everyone wants prompt, professional service.
Turns out it wasn't my furnace after all, just a little something blocking the vent.
Pretty smart dog if you ask me. For service you can count on, call Barrett Heating and Cooling.
Lennox, innovation never felt so good.
What's up? It's my Keith. What's up, bro? Back to spotlight other amazing alumni and how they discovered their path at Lewis and Clark. Let's jump into it. This is Tom Wells,
an assistant chief of the Godfrey Fire District. He has been a firefighter and an EMT for over 20 years. Tom is currently an instructor in the Lewis and Clark Paramedicine program and has 2 degrees from LC, fire science and nursing.
I'm Tom Wills and I'm a trailblazer.
Oh no, another bad headache?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to see your doctor.
OSF Healthcare can handle all of your family's primary care needs, including diagnosing health issues or referring you to a specialist. Schedule an appointment today.
Welcome back, Daily Show. Our friends of OSF Health Center, St. Anthony's to be exact. In the studio, Sarah Bennett, psychotherapist with the group, joins us now. Back in Lunch and Learn set for Wednesday, March the 11th. I didn't even have to look at a calendar.
Hey.
I just kind of did that math in my head real quick.
Look at you.
It's probably the highlight of my day, to be honest with you. That's the one win. Going into this, though, going back into the conversation, and this all centers around the Lunch and Learn that's coming up on Wednesday. The title of it is Parenting Teens Today. Starts at 11:30, and now it also takes us into a group that we're going to touch on that starts in May, correct?
Yeah. This really kind of spurred a notion in me that I see a lot of this in the practice every single day. And I kind of thought, why are we not addressing it like this? I can't always get parents and kids in the room together, but I don't have to if I can do this. And a group where parents can come together and not feel like they're the only ones struggling with this, that this is across many households, if not all households.
Take me through, too, the technology disconnect. What I mean by that is, I'm not saying that every teenager or every child does this, but it seems like parents feel like there might be I don't want to say another life, but maybe some privacy issues or some security things that are going on. How does a parent really tackle that? Because everything seems like it goes great until you got to kind of proverbially put the foot down and say, hey, this is the way it's going to go. Is there any way that, we can kind of talk about that now, and what are the best steps if there's something going on that really is a disconnect in the way the household functions? How do you make it known without creating an enemy from within saying, you're completely wrong and you can't do this, but still say, no, we just aren't having this, and here's why?
Yeah. I mean, that goes with anything, not just technology, sure, but we do have to go from, like, when kids start off, we are their complete manager, right? We manage every aspect of their lives, but as they age, we really want to step back and eventually become more of a consultant and hopefully more of a friend once they leave the house and they're developing their own families. We kind of become the outsider, and it's time for them to step up and do it. And then we have more of a friendly relationship with them. But we do have to handle conflicts in between, and it's not always easy. And I guess the main thing is to really listen to their point of view and tell them, like, you're not in trouble in this, and I do trust you. But as a parent, too, I've been around a minute, and I understand what there is in the world, and it's you aren't the problem. But I do want to keep you safe, and it worries me that we have this level. So we have to come to something that you can live with and that I'm okay with, because there's some things in life that there's just no do-overs for, and I'm not willing to take this chance. So here's the boundaries. Here's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? And then come to the middle. You could have non-negotiables. You're still the parent. You don't have to let them do whatever because it sounded good. You can say, I'm sorry, I'm just not willing to do that. And I know it sucks. And I hope you understand one day. But these are the rules and the limits.
Well, and if it ever leads to a problem or not a problem, but a point where, maybe there's some space that's needed, and your child doesn't talk to you for a couple of, maybe it's a day, maybe there's kind of a whole disconnect for when do you start to draw the line of, okay, we need to have another conversation because, obviously we still aren't getting back to the routine we need to be in? Is there a waiting period of, just give them a couple of days and let it die down? Or, what do you kind of advise? Because I'm sure it's all a gauge based on what your child specifically is as a person. Yeah.
It's who your kid is, how old they are, who you are, what the topic was about, all of those things kind of combined. But I think you can always, when you see the kid, will be like, hey, you still seem off, or is this still about yesterday? Or, come talk to me for a few minutes, sit down with me. Let's talk about what happened.
Well, and going into this too, because you're at the transition point. You're getting your kid that you dropped off at kindergarten, and your baby is growing up, and we're at high school, and then you're graduating, going to college, or whatever you do. How important is it to navigate those transitions and really understand those are big steps for parents too? Because I feel like sometimes we kind of mask them in just the chaotic storm that it is just to get to that end point. You don't realize that, it does take a little bit of a toll on you, I'm sure.
It does. It's sad. You're happy and sad all at the same time that your babies are growing up. You don't have, some adults lose their purpose. They've been a mom and dad. They've been taking care of these kids for so long. Now what do I do? So you do have to keep track of your own emotions. But if you're doing a good job of preparing them and working through these issues as they come along, then you're setting them up for success in the world. And you've created a situation where if they need you, and they will call you and be like, Mom, how did you make that thing? Mom, how do you talk to the doctor? Stuff that you never imagined they would call you for. They'll call. And you've set up this beautiful foundation where you can be that person.
How much do you think there's pressure a lot of times on parents, whether we like to admit it or not, that, what if they don't talk to me after they, hit college? Is that a pressure that you think is there, most of the time?
It's a worry. Yeah, it's a worry.
And how do we talk to ourselves about that? And just, I feel like we're the gauge of our own character a lot of times, and if we're doing the things that we need to do. But, is there a time where you meet with individuals or just have that conversation where it's, it's normal to feel this way, but it feels like also from what we've talked about, if we do these steps, the right way, we're setting ourselves up for not just success for, the relationship, but success for the entire family to go through and really thrive.
Yeah, you're going to watch them grow up and experience life, and it's really hard, and you're going to have to remind yourself that you did the right thing and that this is what you wanted for them, and that it's okay that they don't talk to you 2-3 times a day anymore. You may hear from them 2 or 3 times a month, and that they're doing what you set them up to do, and they're doing it well.
And now take me through the group that's going to form after this Lunch and Learn. So it starts in May?
Starts in May, so it'll be May 6th. It'll be at 5:30 in the afternoon, so it'll be nice time right after work. Support from other parents. One thing we didn't touch on yet, but not all parents are natural parents that raise their children from birth.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's grandparents and aunts and
Great
relatives
point.
and foster parents and all kinds of different types of parenting that happens out there. And sometimes, talking about technology, if grandma is raising 14-year-old, that's a pretty big...
That's a gap.
That's a pretty big age gap, and doing things differently. But this will be a place for all age parents where they can come together and just get support for each other. And we're going to focus on a lot of the things that we're focusing on in this Lunch and Learn that we're going to do, this community event. The difference is that you'd have to be a patient, so you'd have to have an intake. And you can come and go. You can come to 3 meetings or 1 meeting, or you can do it however you would like to do it. But we're going to focus on communication, how to keep boundaries and set rules, how to navigate conflicts, how to have repair after a rupture in the relationship, all of those things. And it'll be more detailed and more skill-based. This Lunch and Learn is an hour and a half. We can't fit everything.
Oh, yeah.
This weekly base, we can really get into the skills and get you the support from other parents that you need.
What's the best way to get more information on the group?
The best way to get more information or to set up an intake would be to call OSF Psychological Services.
Okay.
618-474-6240. Get that referral and you can self-refer, and then we can get you set up for an intake so you're ready to go by May 6th.
Fantastic. And now getting into the Lunch and Learn. Wednesday, March the 11th at 11:30 a.m. How do we register for that?
There's an event on Eventbrite. You can go on there, and it is pretty close to full. So
oh wow, good.
Yeah, it's pretty close, but there were some spots last week, and there's a wait list just in case somebody cancels.
Fantastic.
So.
Well, and it really, it's great that the spots are full, but it shows the need too.
Yeah.
And one final thing. It was actually a good question I had too, and I can't think of it now.
I'm so glad it's not just me.
It's not really a question. It's just I'm just glad you're doing this, because to me, and this is just from I'm 27 now, but I just feel like we've all seen the families. It doesn't matter if it's our own or if it's a neighbor or a relative, that everything's great until the kids get older, because I'm not saying the kids ruin the marriage at all. It's just you get busy, and then life throws all these different things at you, and then stresses happen in the family. And I really think it's great you're doing this, because in OSF because it really could help. I think so many families stay intact and really just get back to loving on each other more.
Yeah. It might be different than the way we were raised.
Yeah.
It might be different than the way you thought you were going to do it. But they're really important skills that your kids are going to take into the world too when they become parents. Yeah. And so I hope that what this starts to do is not only set us up for success within our relationships with our kids and our spouses or significant others, but also that we're setting these kids up for really successful relationships as they get older.
Yeah, and that's the goal. I really like this a lot. This is going to be Wednesday, March the 11th, 11:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. The Community Lunch and Learn. Conversations that connect parenting teens today. Almost full. So
almost full.
We'll hurry up and put the a link on an article on RiverBender.com so you can secure the last spots. We'll also connect ways that you can get signed up before May for the group. That's going to be weekly. That's going to be a great addition. Sarah, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
We'll link everything in a write-up on RiverBender.com. Take a quick break and wrap up the 9 o'clock after this.